have a great story. I have great parents who've loved me. I came up in an amazing home with amazing people and have had a blessed life. I'm so grateful for that. I have a master's degree in teaching. I have a master's degree in religious studies. I have a doctorate in organizational leadership. I am a certified Lead Now trainer. As Matt mentioned, my husband and I ran a thriving business in the state of Pennsylvania. We were the fastest growing of the business of its kind in the state, received the largest grant from the state. I have written and published core curriculum on leadership. I teach leadership at the university. I have co-authored a book called She Works for Him. I'm a global speaker. Blah, blah, blah. How do you like me now? Right? We all have resumes like that are amazing. And I share all that, number one, to tell you I am extremely blessed and so grateful for the life that I've been given. But number two is I would ask you to look at the pictures up here on the board. What do they have in common is the first question I would ask. And second, what do they have in common that would make me leave all of that stuff that I just shared with you and that career trajectory that I was on would make me leave it to run a little nonprofit in Jacksonville, Florida. And I'll get to that in just a minute. But with all that background, you would think I'm a leadership guru, and I am not. But what I do know about leadership is the fact that leadership is trendy. I had the opportunity at the university to teach a class called Leadership Development, and that's literally what we did. We talked about how leadership has developed along the lines, from back in biblical times to leadership in war times to transactional leadership, transformational leadership, servant leadership, and everything in between. And what I realized was that we, as a society, as leaders in this room, you wouldn't be here if you weren't a leader and you weren't interested in leadership in some sort, but we are extremely intrigued by leadership. We continually pursue more knowledge about leadership. We are constantly talking about who is the greatest leader of all times. And if we had time in this room and we could talk about it in an open forum, every one of us would have somebody that we believe is the greatest leader of all time. My topic to you today is about faith in the workplace. And so it shouldn't surprise you that I do believe there is one leader who stands above the rest. And that leader is Jesus Christ. And so what I want to talk to you about today is Lifework leadership and what we do and how we teach leadership based on the greatest leader of all time, but how we do it a little differently. Lifework leadership. Two definitions I'm going to walk you through. Life work, the entire or principal work, labor, or task of a person's lifetime. And leadership, the one that we use, is the action of leading a group of people or an organization. So at Lifework Leadership, we want to take everything, your work, your life, your family, your faith, and we want to put it into action for the purpose of leading people or an organization. Paul Son, one of our speakers at Lifework, he just received the award of being one of the top 30 under the age of 30. He works for Boeing. And he wrote a book, a best-selling book called Quarter Life Calling. It's a young buck. Bring him in, talks about leadership. And this is what Paul said. He said, Jesus, started a faith or a business that now has 2 billion followers. And that business of faith has lasted over 2,000 years. Jesus, has epitomized servant leadership. Ken Blanchard, another leadership guru, said, "The more I read the Bible, the more evident it becomes that everything I've ever taught or written about effective leadership over the past 25 years, Jesus did it to perfection. He is simply the greatest leadership role model of all time." Ryan Eller, Jared Murr at Live the List conducted a leader versus leader tournament where they put these leaders to test, seated them, and then took a poll around the world to see who would come out as the greatest leader of all time. Jesus Christ emerged victorious. John Maxwell, most of you know him, he developed 21 irrefutable laws or reasons why Jesus Christ is the greatest leader of all times. In 2014, Forbes magazine called Jesus the greatest leader of all. So whether you have a faith or you don't have a faith, we can go through statistics like this and point out that Jesus was famous, wrote the best-selling book of all time. And I think it would be fair to say, regardless of your religious backgrounds, that if you had a business that was in operation for over 2,000 years and served over 2 billion customers or clients, we would consider you successful and we would say you would be the greatest of all time. Now, I don't think I'm telling you anything that you haven't heard as leaders. You've heard the example of Jesus Christ as a leader before, so I don't think I'm telling you anything you haven't heard. But what we do at Lifework is take that just one step further. Not only do we want to teach that Jesus was the greatest leader of all time, but we want to take it a step further, and that step is action. And you have heard that spoken over and over and over today. I think I'm going to steal Dr. Carlton's word, Actionville. I loved that. Faith in Jesus Christ is action. If you don't have faith, you wait. If you have faith, you move, or there's action. You've all heard this. You walked in the room today. You sat down on the chair without thinking about it because you had faith that the chair was going to hold you. I have faith in Jesus Christ. Faith is usually something that you believe in or someone that you believe in. But at Lifework, we try to take it just a step further and say not only is it something that you believe in, but it is a firm confidence that results in action. If you look at the greats of the Bible, we have in Hebrews what's called the Hall of Faith. And if any of you know Scripture at all, there is this big list in Hebrews about the great faith people of Scripture. And what's interesting about every one of those people that's talked about in Hebrews is every one of them had an action behind their faith. Noah built an ark. It says Noah was a man of faith and he built an ark. Abraham, faith, left his family, left the country. Moses had faith, took the Israelites out of Egypt. Moses had faith when he crossed the Red Sea. Rahab had faith when she hid the spies, and so on and so on and so on. We see over and over and over again that this kind of faith requires action. And at Lifework, we want to take that faith in Jesus Christ into the workplace in Jacksonville and have action. Action that changes the city for Jesus Christ. That's why our motto is transforming leaders to transform our city. We do this at Lifework through 3 outcomes. I've got way too many things in my hand. 3 outcomes that we attain to reach through this organization. 1, clarifying your calling, integrating your faith in Jesus with business and everyday life, connecting yourself to a like-minded community, building dynamic relationships with other Christian influencers, and captivating your heart for the city, utilizing your God-given influence and platform for the good of the city. Now, if I take you back to this picture that I started with, this picture is why I left the career trajectory that I was on to run a nonprofit in Jacksonville, because I believed that clarifying your calling, our first outcome, was of a vital importance. When you look at the picture on the right, you see Dr. Asher Shannon Khan. He was the head of oncology at Mayo Clinic here. Extremely successful, traveled the world. He's sitting on the cure for cancer. This man is like no one you've ever met before. And he went through Lifework, and he sat down with me after the 8-month journey, and he said, listen, it's changed the way I work. I will never again walk into a patient's room with the same attitude that I did before, because I now fully understand what my calling is and how God is going to use me. We are clarifying the calling of influential leaders in this city. Picture on the bottom, you look, talk about connecting like-minded community as our second outcome. We do an 8-month program where we work together. These influencers, Nishan has been through it, Matt has been through it, Ron has been through it. There's several people in this room that have been through this program. And we are the largest faith-based networking system in the city. So we take over 600 of our influential leaders and we bring them together to work together. We've seen people come out of this program that quit their jobs and started companies together. They've gone through this program and have built into each other, served into each other. Matt met Nishan, money given to them. I can't even begin to tell you the stories that have come out of this like-minded community growing together. And then the one up top is captivating your heart for the city. We then take these influential leaders and say, listen, it's not enough to just know it. You need to put it into action because faith is action. The Ron Armstrongs of the world that you just heard went through Lifework, said, I need to take action. We are moving people in this city to take action. We do that through the 8-month journey that I'm talking about. This journey is unique. You've been to many leadership conferences, you've been to many leadership programs, and you've heard it all, I'm sure. This is unique in the way that we go through an 8-month program where we study the top 10 leadership characteristics of Jesus Christ, the greatest leader of all times. But we do it with a bent. We look at the way that he led his 12 disciples. Because when we look at the 12 disciples, they were 12 businessmen. We had fishermen, so we had the labor industry. We had a tax collector. We had the business district. We had a doctor. We had the healthcare industry. We had a politician. We had a zealot. We had the military. Jesus strategically pulled these business leaders in, trained them up for 3 years in these leadership characteristics, and then he sent them back out. He said, now go back out and do what you already do, but this time, do it with the gospel and take action. So this business that is the greatest business that has ever existed, the business of faith, that's reached over 2 billion people and has been around for 2,000 years, got that far because of 12 business leaders. And we are convinced that if we grab every faith-based professional in this city and do the same thing, we can change this city for Jesus Christ. And we are watching it happen. Jacksonville is special. Lifework is a global community, so we have cities all over the world, but Jacksonville is extra special. Maybe it's just because I'm partial to Jacksonville. It's Duval, like you said, we love our city. But we have seen how Jacksonville has taken Lifework to a new level. Because we believe so firmly in faith and action, we said we can't just teach our leaders how to do that. We as an organization need to do it. So we've launched what's called Lifework Community Impact Projects. And these are projects that we do over the city. The first one is Lifework Grit. Nishan, right at the end, I think you had asked a question and you answered it by what's happening with the kids at Bowles is happening with the kids at Rains. I always say it as the kids at Rains are selling the drugs, the kids at Bowles and Ponte Vedra are buying the drugs. Either way, it's an issue and we need to solve it. So we launched Lifework Grit, which is a program like what we're doing for our adults, but we're doing it with kids. And so we've partnered with High School 912, and we are in the 4th year of that, where we are trying to catch kids on the front end of going into their careers so that they know what they're called to do, what they're passionate about, and we can point them in that direction. We've also launched The Cup of Job. It's a coffee shop down in Jacks Beach. If you haven't been there yet, you need to go. It's the greatest coffee shop in the world. But what we decided was, hey, we want to live out this action faith in a workplace. So we launched this business. Everything in the coffee shop's been donated by people in the community. It's all run by volunteers, and we work in partnership with a rescue mission. So we use it as a job placement program for the homeless people. We've employed over 12 of the homeless people in Jacks Beach, which the beach tends to have a high population. There's public showers and public bathrooms. Why not be a homeless person there? So we are working to curb that. We are just now meeting with our third. We are looking to start a spa. We've realized that the demographic of women coming out of human trafficking here in the city is very high, and these women will get out of that and they'll try to get a job, and the money's not as good. So they find their way back into it. They go back into the strip clubs or back into the trafficking because that's better money. So we partnered with FSCJ, a local university here, and they are willing to pay for these women to go back to school to be certified as massage therapists, and that is a better job and a better income for these women that will keep them off the street. So we are in the process of launching our third community impact, which will be a spa, working with that demographic. So we believe in action. Clarifying your calling, I talked to you about Dr. Asha Khan. Catherine Way is another one. It's TPC. I couldn't throw her in here. If any of you are going to hang around and do TPC this week, Catherine Way went through Lifework, left her job, and decided to start Catherine Way Dresses. It is now the #1 female golf attire in the world. You'll see her dresses this week. But helping people clarify their calling. Connecting them to like-minded communities. We told you about our little coffee shop. Because of that coffee shop, somebody walked in because it's at the beach, so it's very touristy, and they said, hey, I love what you're doing. This husband and wife left our coffee shop, went back to Chicago where they're from, quit their jobs, and opened Beans of Grace. They said, hey, I want to do the same thing you're doing. They're partnering with women coming out of human trafficking for the city of Chicago. So we've helped launch Beans of Grace. Grounds of Grace, you heard Ron Armstrong talk about it earlier, came out of Lifework, saw what we were doing, said, hey, I have a demographic that I'm working with. It's young kids. I can take coffee and do it mobile for these kids. He started Grounds of Grace. Somebody in the community has started Hitch Coffee. She went through Lifework, Shannon Hill. She said, hey, there's a demographic that I want to serve. It is our healthcare industry. She had a brother that works in the healthcare industry. He works midnight shift. His biggest complaint is that he's exhausted at 2 and 3 in the morning, and everything closes down in the hospitals in the middle of the night. So she has started a coffee shop that's mobile and goes into all of our hospitals here in the city to serve our healthcare workers on midnight shift who just need a good cup of coffee, connecting people to like-minded communities. And captivating your heart for our city. This is one of the biggest things that's happened in this last year with Lifework that we are so proud of. We at Lifework, as I mentioned, have over 600 alumni, several of which who are serving in a capacity in our city in an elected position. Our congressman went through Lifework. Our last 3 sheriff went through Lifework. We have 4 sitting city council members going through Lifework. We have a Lifeworker running, and his opposition is another Lifeworker. We are watching people move in this city. And so when we realized we had a big election not that long ago, we had 5 candidates throw their hat in the ring for sheriff here for the city of Jacksonville. 4 of the 5 were life workers. There was Republicans and Democrats. Yep, I said that. There were men, there were women, there were white, there were black, there were young, they were old, and we put them all on the same stage and said, hey, this is what politics should look like. And we watched God move, captivating your heart for the city. So we at Lifework, we believe that Jesus is the greatest leader of all time. We believe that he chose 12 businessmen to carry that message to the world. We believe that faith in Jesus requires action, and that action produces more productivity and a better work-life balance. And we believe that this model of leadership will not only transform our city, but will transform the world. Billy Graham said in 2018, I believe that one of the next great moves of God is going to be through believers in the workplace. And Lifework agrees. Thank you.